Ready? Smithville Board of Aldermen meetings now called to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
All those any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is the committee reports. Alderman Wilson.
Resolution 1423 was discussed at Planning and Zoning. Also, Jack shared that construction is moving forwards at Fairview Crossing. We'll start seeing some activity here before too much longer, possibly at Clay Creek Meadows. And that's all I'm going to say unless the mayor has anything else to say. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. City Administrator's report, Ms. Wagner, do you have anything to add?
I do want to highlight, I did neglect to indicate in the city administrator's report, the bulky item drop-off event that occurred on November 2nd. I did want to acknowledge the efforts of Myra Toothman, who was here for the work session, and Keowa Norton in organizing that, and then city staffers Will Stubbs and Chief Lockridge, who helped with that. So we appreciate their efforts on that event that was quite successful. Do want to note, we did not include any information in the city administrator's report, but we are very near completion of the Emerald Ridge Park. It is looking great. Sidewalk was installed late last week, and we're getting closer and closer to completion. The shelter has not yet been installed, but will be before long. Basically, it will be playable by Thanksgiving, and we are planning a ribbon cutting for 2 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th. So you want to put that on your calendars. And then I want to remind the governing body and the public that City Hall will be closed next Thursday and Friday in observance of Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Yeah, Matt, if I know I told Alderman Hartman, but if you haven't walked that park, go walk it. Even though it's not done, it's pretty amazing the attention to detail they paid on some of the things. If you have Hot Wheels, bring them. There's a little Hot Wheel track around. Just saying, Marv, I know you got some.
You betcha.
All right, next item on the agenda is number 6. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve bill number 3044-24, fiscal year 2025, budget amendment number 1, emergency ordinance sponsored by Mayor Boley for the first reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Wilson,
No.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
No.
Alderman Hartman,
Aye.
Alderman Kabilski,
Aye.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
4-2.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2025 operating budget to add $50,500 to the general fund expenditure budget.
Thank you. Second reading, Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve bill number 3044-24, fiscal year 2025, budget amendment number 1, emergency ordinance sponsored by Mayor Boley for the second reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
No.
Alderman Kabilski,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
No.
Alderman Hartman,
Aye.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
4-2.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance amending the fiscal 2025 operating budget to add $50,500 to the general fund expenditure budget.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 7, also 2 readings. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve bill number 3045-24, agreement with West Central Missouri Regional Lodge number 50, emergency ordinance sponsored by Mayor Boley for the first reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Hartman,
Aye.
Alderman Kibelski,
Aye.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
No.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
No.
4-2.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a labor agreement with West Central Missouri Regional Lodge Number 50 of the Fraternal Order of Police representing the Supervisory Bargaining Unit.
Thank you. Same item, second reading.
Thank
Alderman
you.
Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Bill number 3045-24, agreement with West Central Missouri Regional Lodge Number 50, emergency ordinance sponsored by Mayor Boley for the second reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Russell,
No.
Alderman Hartman,
Aye.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Kibelski,
Aye.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
No.
4-2.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a labor agreement with West Central Missouri Regional Lodge Number 50 of the Fraternal Order of Police representing Supervisory Bargaining Unit.
Thank you. Next item is number 8. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Bill number 3046-24, amending section 705.140 of the Codes of Ordinances
Thank
for the
you.
first reading.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I will second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. It's kind of a, if you don't mind, Mayor, just one question here. And it's probably for Chuck, but there was a period in time that we didn't have, because of a snafu, right? We didn't have a ordinance covering lead pipe, right? And I imagine that at that time it's so antiquated that there weren't any lead pipes. But I just want to make sure that that's, to your knowledge, that didn't happen, right?
So we just recently finished, the EPA is asking everybody in the United States to go through and verify what they, if they have lead or copper lines, services, and even from the meter into the house, so even your service line. Obviously, we don't know what's inside the house, but we did that and we don't have any lead service lines or lead in our system.
Great. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Shipley,
Aye.
Alderman Kibelski,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Alderman Hartman,
Aye.
Alderman Atkins,
Aye.
Alderman Russell,
Aye.
6-0.
Motion carries. Ms. Wagner, please read the bill.
An ordinance amending section 705.140 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Smithville concerning lead in water systems.
Thank you. Next item is number 9. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 1423, site plan for 110 West Main Street.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I do have a
Go ahead.
comment if I can.
Go ahead.
On the first floor on Main Street and Mill, I would like to request that above the masonry, that it's brick from top of the masonry to the first floor on Main Street and Mill only. I don't know how the other board feels about that design change.
Good. Jack, you know what she's talking about, the red siding, just on the commercial pieces.
On the retail areas only.
Yes, she had several questions earlier in the evening. There are 2 buildings that show up on the plans, except, although it's one building because there's a pass-through, but there are 2 buildings. The front building is the retail, and it has main side and mill side. And that building has stone at the 4-foot interval at the front, and her request would be to put brick above that stone to the first floor level, just on the retail building side. Above it is residential, and behind it on the rest of Mill and Church is all residential as well. So it's the building that's got the commercial in it. She's asking that brick be added above that masonry.
Yeah, I think it ties into the senior center across the street. I mean, the senior center has brick, faux brick, but it looks,
Yeah.
it was made to look like brick, and
Yeah.
so the adjacent buildings have brick on the Main Street side at least. So.
Yes, and that, I assume that difference in the design, because if you go to all the other buildings, that 4-foot wainscoting is all brick.
Yeah.
It's just the retail building that has the stone.
Would that be tied in with this resolution though? Would that be tied in with this or something else?
I'm not certain. It could be tied in if the board decides to tweak the approval to say that brick needs to be above the masonry on the retail building to the first floor. That would be your approval of the site plan. And that would be an added tweak to the approval and the resolution. I think Linda would change the wording by interlineation. She'd write it in. Is that correct, John?
If the board
Yeah,
amends it.
yes, I'm assuming the board does it, how it would be affected, and that's how it'd be effectuated. No, the
Correct.
planning, yes, it's a planning commission recommendation. Masonry here, she's asking that they extend additional masonry above it just a little bit more. Yeah,
Alderman Hartman, you have something?
Yeah, no, Mayor, I agree with Alderman Kowalski that I think just from a aesthetic look, that would be good to do.
Okay. Alderman Kowalski, do you have anything else? Since you're,
I don't. I just wanted to say, I think it would be more cohesive with our downtown.
so, are you making an amendment to include brick on the
Yes,
street
please.
side?
I'd like to make an amendment for the retail space on Main and that little bit on Mill Street to have brick above the masonry to the first floor roof line.
Okay, and then Alderman Hartman, are you second?
I am seconding it, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll discuss on adding the brick to the commercial street side. Any other discussion on that particular item?
On that item or on the brick?
On brick, adding brick,
the amendment.
the amendment.
No.
We're just making a motion.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the amendment to add brick to the Main Street side of the commercial building up to on the first floor, please say aye.
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 Say no. All right, back to the main resolution. Any other items on the main resolution?
I have something, Your Honor.
Go ahead. No,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So I've been initially against this project. However, the project is going through right now. I spent some time with Jack earlier and going over some questions that I had, which he answered. And with the exception of the areas here that say assume and should, I just want to make sure that and Jack, you told me that Eric and the development team agreed to these. As long as that where it says here that, it should, any assumption that is cleared up that will, right? Then that's I'm okay with this. Thank you.
And then Jack, could you also address the item we discussed on parking, since I'm sure a few people have the question on the parks, in lieu of park fees, parking in the parking lot construction?
Sure, and I'll answer all those questions. In the packet, you have the staff comment letter that went out to the applicant on numerous issues. And then we walked through that entire project, physically walked with one of the representatives. And he agreed to literally every change. And we discussed some design changes over here, which on the parking lot behind City Hall is not part of theirs, but we put that into the approval because it's part of their obligation to do it under the TIF stuff and the property sale. So we included all those in it, and it was noted at the time to them that that's a condition of staff approval. So we've done it. They've made some of the plan changes associated with those. If you look at the linked documents in the RFA, you'll see an alternative parking lot layout on the building. And it had originally going through part of United's property, and we had conditioned our staff recommendation for approval on either giving us a specific easement that allowed that so it couldn't be cut off, or adjust your design. They didn't have that. They adjusted the design, and that was the final document that we needed from our perspective. Secondarily, on Alderman Wilson's question, there are two aspects of it. They've got a rough layout of the parking lot that will be going north of Church Street. Two things to start that process out. That will be one of their very last construction items in the entire project, because they're going to use that as a laydown area for their material, their equipment, et cetera, while they're building the building, et cetera. So that'll be the last thing they do. our going through the analysis of everything, we knew they had park fees. We knew what they were going to be. And when we walked it with Chuck Souls, myself, and Cynthia Wagner, we identified that, and Carlos went out there later with us, identified that if the trail goes through, the Riverwalk goes through, it would be nice to have an additional parking behind it to the north of their parking lot. Their funds would allow it. You've seen it in the agreement. So based on that, in order to access that, we'd have to drive through their parking lot. There's existing, when it's a city lot, before it was sold, people drove through it. You can see them going down the hill, turning right and heading to the apartments. And there's another access from that Bridge Street side as well. It's a 20-foot wide access. So the thought was keep the design flipped the way it is, which includes a short encroachment onto city land with parking spaces. And they would be able to encroach on it on the condition that they gave us access through, and then they would lose 2 spaces, but access through that parking lot so that we could access a future trailhead parking lot that they would build at least the gravel base for. We don't know the dollar amount at the time of what it's going to cost construction-wise, but they've agreed to put it in using their park fee. They wouldn't have to pay it. Instead, they just build it, and it's up to $53,000 worth of gravel in there. But they have to have at least 8 spaces in it, accessible gravel spaces. So we'd have a trailhead parking there. That would go to the other thing. So that's the scenario. If there's any heartburn over that, to the extent that it's going to be sometime late next year before they even get to that parking, that could be addressed in a separate lease agreement or however you wanted to handle it at that time. It'd just require you to identify that now. Because like I said, they won't be constructing that parking lot for 8-10 months. They're hoping to start construction on this one next week or so. So
Jack, since I'm the one that asked about that, since
Mhm.
I wasn't in planning and zoning to ask the question then, when you talked about a lease agreement, would that be on the city's property that they'd be encroaching on for the parking
yeah, it would be their encroachment for the parking
and us?
and our access through their lot. Otherwise, they block it off. Because they can flip that exact design, remove our potential access point, and everything lays out for them, and they get their 33 spaces.
So let me ask, so you said like the people that are in those apartments have been driving down over to access the backside of that. So there's really not a thorough street from Bridge Street to get to a trailhead. Would that be correct?
No, there is a way. They're going that way now
So-
because they can't go out on Bridge because of the construction.
It would give us 2 accesses to the
Yeah.
trailhead. And because the bridge one, we're, as part of Streetscape Phase 3, we're putting in a concrete parking lot for those apartments, right? That's part of the,
Some, yes.
yeah, so that'll probably be,
Yeah, we'll have asphalt alleyway,
yeah,
and then there'll be parking for both the Rose Cottage and the apartment.
because we took off because there's no on-street parking, right, at that spot, right? Okay.
So I'm just curious if we should not go ahead and consider doing the lease agreements instead of just
That's
doing.
why I proposed it to you. If you
And
all wanted
I-
to do that, we can, the
I
the
don't-
method would be to recommend that we pull any approval related to that parking and the parks fees until such time as a lease agreement is worked out that addresses those issues. That can be done as well.
Yeah, or the other thing, I'm sorry, and the other thing is, on what Melissa's saying, is if we give the spaces, go ahead and give the spaces and do not have access through that parking lot, and then only access to the trailhead will be off of Church Street, right?
Bridge.
Off
Bridge,
Bridge Street, I'm sorry,
Bridge.
off of Bridge, yes.
Right. If the agreement doesn't go through, they will simply flip their design. It will all fit. They'll get their 33. We no longer have access through the north end of that northeast corner of one of those lots, which is where it is now.
Alderman Hartman.
Mayor, just from a procedural standpoint, what I think I'm hearing is we could allow this resolution to go through, but we could also amend to state something around about to have these lease agreements as Alderman Wilson's talking about. Is that correct? Or will this go back completely?
No, it's just this issue.
Okay.
Because they still have to submit construction plans for a parking lot. That's not going to happen for months.
Right. So I just want to make sure we weren't holding up the developer's progress. So Alderman Wilson, I mean, this was your suggestion, so.
Yeah, I would like to, however I make that recommendation or motion to move forward with a lease agreement on both sides with
Yeah.
what you've talked about, because I don't want to stop the progress either, and we understand that that's probably going to be the last thing that's developed anyway.
Yeah.
So I would like to make a motion that we move forward with doing a lease
Yeah.
agreement.
And my recommendation is that your motion should be to remove from the approval the north parking lot and the parks fees exchange for the gravel lot, and we'll throw all that in.
Get that, Linda?
I make a motion like what Jack just said.
So she's making a motion to remove the approval of the north parking lot and parks fees from this resolution.
Okay.
So do I have a second?
Mayor will second.
Thank you. Any discussion on parking lot and parks fees? All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Back to the main line resolution. Any other discussion? Alderman Atkins.
No, sorry.
Thank you. Any other? Going once, going twice. All those in favor of approving resolution 1424 as amended, you got those both, right? Megan, Chuck, everybody got all those amendments? Thanks. I'll say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Awesome. Item number 10. Alderman Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 1424, agreement with Placer Labs Incorporated.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution 1424, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. Any public comment? You already did all that earlier. And any new business?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I'd like to put it on the floor that specifically related to requesting, I guess from the development department, I'll just give a scenario. So there was a recorded survey yesterday that wanted requests. It was for business. I want to make sure very clear that wasn't for city business. This was for business. And the staff correctly said that there's one of two ways to identify or to request that. Number one is to make an open records request, or number two, go to Clay County and pay the fees. And so I would like to see if any other alderman here would consider for Jack's department that we maybe keep those fees internally. I know there's not a lot of money to be made and there's costs to be covered, but is there a system where we could collect those fees online and or in person versus a open records request? In this case, it wasn't an open records request.
Basically, it is an open record request.
Well, but if you got developers coming to ask for recorded, and you're sending them you're either A, stating it's an open records request, or B, go to Clay County and pay. I'm going to guess most people are going to go to Clay County and pay. So I'm just looking for a way that we could collect, make that an easier process for developers or anybody that wants to request recorded documents.
Is Clay County the custodian of records on those? Is that what?
Well, yeah, if it's a recorded document, the recorder of deeds keeps it. We may have a copy. If you want a copy of a record we keep, you put in the request, we assemble the information, and you pay us then.
Okay, so there's no way, so what I'm hearing is it sounds like from a flow and who owns the documents, there's no really way to do that. Okay, I appreciate
Not
you.
separately. I mean, if they make the request formally in writing,
Right,
we do the evaluation, get the records, and whatever the charges are, the charges are.
okay. It's just a little bit of friction created there. It's a lot easier just to go ahead and go online and collect it. I was just trying to
Yeah,
keep some revenue.
and that's the other aspect on your particular issue that makes it easier. You can sign up with the recorder of deeds office, look up the document, pull it up and print it
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
for free.
Yeah. Well, no, you no longer can do it for free.
Yeah, they charge.
They charge now. Yeah, yeah.
$2 for.
Yeah. Very good.
We can do that, but we still have to respond to the request.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So,
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, John.
thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
Have something, Mayor, real quick. I just wanted to thank Linda, Gina, Cynthia, whoever put the trash schedule for the holidays on the online. It has saved me a lot of phone calls, so thank you.
Myra.
That sounds like Myron.
Thank you. Thank you, Myra. But she's not here anymore, is she?
Nope.
Okay.
Anything else? Kelly's got an anniversary to take care of, so congratulations. I need a motion to adjourn executive session.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to section 610.021 of the Missouri State Statute.
Thank you. To have a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Kibelski.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Russell.
Aye.
Alderman Atkins.
Aye.
Alderman Shipley.
Aye.
Alderman Hartman.
Aye.
6-0.
Stand adjourned to executive session. Have a good evening, Kelly.
All right. What? I could hear you, Chuck. I'm right. I could hear you.